We've got to volunteer. The body is on the way.
Sheriff.
All Detroit has a cancer. Cancer is crime.
In a row.
As you know, we've entered into a contract with the city to run local law enforcement.
We were able to save the left arm.
What? I thought we agreed on total body prosthesis. Now lose the arm, okay? We get the best of both worlds. Onboard computer-assisted memory and a lifetime of on-the-street law enforcement programming.
Hey, Louis, it's Supercop.
This guy is really good.
He's not a guy, he's a machine.
What are they gonna do, replace us?
Murphy, it's you.
Go get him, boy.
Thank you. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to an attorney. Anything you say may be used against you.
You better back up, pal!
Your move, creep.
The future of law enforcement. Robocop.
Thank you for your cooperation.
Hello, welcome to Movie Humpers. My name is Bob Sham.
My name is Angela.
The sounds here may be dogs, and it is dystopian futures all month long. The future I'd be looking forward to is if we're all forced to wear GQ, Gentleman's Quarterly branded bucket hats, like the one I'm wearing right now.
Well, that is a future I don't belong in.
I got a birthday dinner that I'm going to this weekend. I think I'm going to rock this.
Oh, you definitely should.
Salty ass hat, man.
You definitely should.
Yes, dystopian futures. We're calling the theme Some Bullshit Tomorrow. And the 80s, you know, you got to expect the 80s to come up a couple of times. They've got the flashiest future movies. We already talked about the Terminator. And when it comes to 80s movies, there is another metal dude that might come up in your mind. That's right. We're talking about our man, Robocop. Yeah, we're talking about...
But he's a good guy.
He is a good guy. The only good cop, Robocop. Is he, though? Is he, though? Robocop from 1987, directed by Paul Verhoeven, written by Edward Neumeier and Michael Miner, starring Peter Weller, Nancy Allen, Kurtwood Smith, who's Red from that 70s show, Miguel Ferrer, Ronnie Cox, cinematography by Yost Vacano. This movie cost $13.5 million, made $53 million in 1987. And, you know, we talked about Mr. Verhoeven's other movie, though also with an assist from Neumeier and Phil Tippett, who did work on this movie as well, with a few other effects guys. We talked about Starship Troopers, and this is a lot of the same personalities involved. But RoboCop, something about this future that almost feels too familiar. Like, the only thing that isn't just completely mediocre is RoboCop himself. Like, it seems like he's actually quite well made. Yes. Quite well executed. There's really no good guys here. Maybe Nancy Allen's character, Peter Weller, they have good intentions, but they're essentially the extension of an authoritarian police state that has been privatized and sent to corporations. And there's a police union trying to counter that, but they don't do a good job.
Even Nancy Allen, who seems to be one of the best people, is still a cocky cop.
Yeah.
Who makes bad calls that lead to the death of the man to become RoboCop.
Yeah, cops are not this brave either. It's like they're trained.
No!
Well,
She's showing off.
Self-preservation is their number one training. I don't think I'm trying to recall if even Nancy Allen's character, Lewis, actually accomplishes anything other than getting RoboCop to reconnect with his human side.
That is the only thing.
But yeah, as far as like taking down bad guys.
Backup is still unavailable. We estimate 10 minutes before units can arrive.
Well, you call it.
Let's do it.
Okay.
A few minutes later. 12 seconds later.
Well, give the man a hand.
They both choose to go into this warehouse when there's a whole arms gang that we find out is an extension of this corporation.
she says, do you want to go? And he goes, your call. And she's like, let's do it. Dumb bitch.
Well, it's all tongue-in-cheek here.
There's 5 guys in there.
This is like Starship Troopers. It's like a lot of the extremities, but the feeling of post-industrial mediocrity here and the idea of all this, seeing all this tech that is beyond, especially at the time, what we knew of. But this movie is just, maybe it's in the future, but close enough to feel a little uncomfortable.
Yes.
There's something about this movie that feels more accurate than a lot of what we're looking for. And this guy whips out this thing that is the ED they call it, 209.
Ed 209.
Erectile dysfunction.
Please put down your weapon. You have 20 seconds to comply.
I think you'd better do what he says, Mr. Kenny.
And it looks like just a death machine, right? And then something goes wrong when they're with this guy who's volunteering and it won't turn off.
You are in direct violation of Penal Code 113, Section 9. You now have 5 seconds to comply. 4, 3, 2, 1. I am now authorizing your physical force.
And this guy he doesn't just get shot. He gets like this is how like San Francisco cops shoot black teenagers. They just unload the whole fucking thing.
It is so bad how destructive this thing is. And they try to say it's because basically they tell the guy to point a gun at the machine so that he will go in defense mode. Would I not volunteer
for that job?
When they say drop your gun, he drops it, but he keeps counting down. And what they say is that the machine didn't hear the gun fall. What the fuck? Why can't the machine see?
Technological mediocrity. You're seeing the future, but it fucking sucks. And a lot like in Starship Troopers when we get these fake reels, we get these commercials of these shitty products.
Is it time for that big operation? This may be the most important decision of your life. So come down and talk to one of our qualified surgeons. Here at the Family Heart Center, we feature the complete Jarvik line. Series 7 Sports Heart by Jensen. Yamaha, you picked the heart. Extended warranties, financing, qualifies for health tax credit.
There's a car they bring up over and over again called the 6000 SUX.
It's back. Big is back because bigger is better. 6000 SUX, an American tradition.
I think there was a time as well in which American car manufacturers made their cars shitty with the idea that people will come back and buy more, kind of like how they do phone tech now. I mean, this movie takes place in Detroit. They call it Old Detroit, right? The car manufacturer, Steel City.
It is there's so much crime.
Everything
the police can barely hang on.
The setting is so appropriate, especially when they're making fun of like the quality of what is being manufactured. And especially this car that they bring up over and over again that ends up getting blown up, like in this world in which they obviously don't care that people are living and dying. The solution is to just somehow strengthen the police force. That's not an answer to what has made everything the way it is.
Plan B, proposed by this other junior executive, a machine that can only be completed should a cop die. And so he tells the guy, we should be able to get one in the next 6 months or so. He's just banking on someone dying.
Yeah.
They have been transferring people into the city who they think would be good Robocops, who they think are gonna die.
Weller's character, Murphy,
It's so fucked.
They talk about how he's from somewhere else that's nearby that is well-to-do. Like he's not that bitty.
Fluffy.
Now he's going into the heart of Old Detroit, and he's got big plans, and he's very optimistic about his position. But yeah, he looks like fucking red meat. And sure enough, because they both walk into a warehouse full of gun runners and shit, led by the dad from that 70s show.
He's so funny in this. Not funny, but it's weird to see him play this role, but he does a great job at what he's doing.
And sure enough, they fuck him up. and they shoot him a ridiculous amount of times until they get him one like up in the side of the head. And Lewis walks up after they're gone and laughing and cackling that they executed
They've shot
the cop.
his legs and one of his arms off.
Yeah, they completely a very drawn out, violent. This movie is incredibly violent. That's one thing everyone knows about it, right? But it's just also extremely cartoony, very comic booky. They do have RoboCop comics, but not before the movie came out. But it definitely just feels like that 80s trying to feel a grown-up comic book vibe, right?
Especially the ED 209 or whatever. I could totally see a whole comic book page of just that guy.
Absolutely. The ED 209 is so funny to me because and there's a point where they do successfully turn Weller into a RoboCop, and this guy sicks the ED at him, but RoboCop manages to foil the ED very easily by walking downstairs, and you see the ED just fucking flop, and it can't get up. And this thing looks like it could destroy like a whole village, but this thing just fucks up at every moment. And when it gets caught in the stairs, I mean, this is a movie I watched a lot as a kid, but as an adult, seeing that is just so fucking funny. It is hilarious that the notion of this brutal killing machine that looks so badass, right, is just actually, no, when you really look into it, it's just the dumbest fucking thing and the most impractical fucking thing. It's like if they made the Cybertruck into a killing machine.
Jesus.
The ED 209 is the Cybertruck of police machines. Killer police machines.
So they turn him into the RoboCop and they erase his memories of his life. But the whole concept is that because he was once a cop, you have embedded within this robot cop a lifetime of policing, experience, and knowledge.
We see him going out in a montage of some policing. He doesn't just kill everyone right off. Some people he does take alive. And when he does eventually capture Kurtwood Smith's character, he does take him alive as well. But in this world of weird mediocrity, even though the guy who made him, the executive kiss ass that made him, is played by Miguel Ferrer, he maybe isn't as bad as the guy who just wants to build faulty machines, but like he is like a total piece of dog shit.
He comes in at one point and the head scientist lady says, "We saved one of his arms," and he goes, "No.
Yeah,
cut it off.
No, that we need machine arms.
It needs to be completely a machine."
It turns out that the Kurtwood Smith gang, as we'll call it, is being employed by the executive who created the ED 209. So they send him after Miguel Ferrer's character and just fucking whacks his ass. So that's the end of what we see him. And because he's riding real fucking high. He actually made something that doesn't fuck up. The only thing in probably this whole town of Old Detroit that doesn't fuck up.
He's doing coke off the tits of this woman who is the quintessential 80s party girl.
Sometimes I could just think of something and he could just get me so horny.
Yeah, well, a mind is a terrible thing to waste. I get bored so easily.
Yep. And you need lots of stimulation, Bobby.
Yes, I do.
They don't really try to make it look like the future. That's one of the things that is more unsettling about it, is it just, at the time, it was like just a few years ahead kind of idea. It feels very rooted in the time in which it was created, which makes it seem more possible.
Even in its comical, cartoon, satirical nature, connects you to it even more. There's a lot about our modern world and where it's going that is depressing, but also there's a part of me that just has to laugh at it just to keep from, like, there's a weird absurdity to it, like the notion of the Cybertruck or something like that is a perfect example of that. Just makes it more accessible, but the terror, the things that just seem to be complete shit. There is a a terror under the surface.
They think that they have successfully erased his memories of the person he was. He doesn't even remember his name, but they left the parts that remember how to be a cop. And somehow within doing that, you can't erase an entire person's everything. So he starts to remember things. They also bring him back to the same precinct where he was, around people that are familiar.
He was new, but Lewis is a big part. The cops are fascinated by this thing, but Lewis has a suspicion all along that this is
the same
her
bottom
old partner.
of his face.
Yeah. She can read mouths. And also, one of the gang members can read mouths very well, too, because they recognize that he was the dude they killed.
I would like to point out that she and that gang member are smarter than everyone in any Batman movie.
Well, that gang member that recognizes his mouth gets all washed up in like a chemical bath.
That is so good and fucked up. It's so good. The Kurtwood Smith gang does manage to fuck him up, dropping metal on his ass, but RoboCop brings him in, and that's when he finds out that the dude who created the ED-209 is behind this all. So then we get the climactic moment where he has to hunt them down, and he's recording everything these people are saying, so he knows, and he has proof of exactly what they've done. So it's determined that he must be completely destroyed, or this guy in this company is going to lose his standing.
Yeah.
Whatever. So they hide out. This is when he takes off his face bit, and it's so creepy.
You may not like what you're going to see.
Yeah, so we see the makeup looks great too, but we do end on the execution of that guy. He ends up killing him, right? The guy who runs the company, he's just called the Old Man. And they say that about him throughout the movie. I didn't realize he didn't have a name.
I didn't either.
But I'm checking the cast list. He is just the Old Man. And Jones is the guy, the executive who built the ED-209. RoboCop cannot, his programming prevents him from shooting Jones, who's taken the Old Man hostage.
Any executive of that company.
But then the Old Man, of course, fires him. And it's called Directive 4 when he can't fire on people within the company. But he fires him.
Dick, you're fired!
Thank you.
Saves the company, saves the police force. The Old Man asks RoboCop,
Nice shooting, son. What's your name?
Murphy.
there aren't really good guys here, but the guys who aren't quite as bad win. Though everyone's a bad guy. It's like the American political system. But that's Robocop from 1987. This movie is so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
This movie is so funny. And the visceral, violent nature of it, just so over the top. It's probably one of the better, without technically being a comic book movie, it's probably one of the best comic book movies, and how it embellishes those notions.
Yeah.
And the pop culture sensibilities. It was just such a perfect movie for its time. We're going to give it 1 through 5 each, combined for best out of 10. A lot of people know this movie. Robocop at a wrestling pay-per-view for WCW saved the wrestler's Sting.
Sting has been caged by the Horseman, but here comes Robocop, Bob. Be a bucket of balls till we get down with you.
Broke him out of a cage.
Oh, gosh almighty. He's pulling that door right off the hinges. Horseman. And Big Sid back up. Sting and Robocop have asserted themselves here.
Now, this movie is pretty much tongue-in-cheek satire, the Verhoeven-Neumeier way, right? Verhoeven apparently passed on this script multiple times, which is pretty interesting because Verhoeven is known for 2 things, right? Sci-fi satire and erotic thrillers. He also directed Basic Instinct and Showgirls. But for a guy who's so known for his sci-fi stuff like Robocop, Starship Troopers, Total Recall. It encompasses a very small part of his actual output and career. But this is the movie that broke that mold and helped to establish that reputation for a guy who seemed to have to be dragged to the sci-fi effects world. He seems to direct it better than most people.
Maybe that's why.
Yeah.
Maybe because he knew what he wanted to do, but there wasn't the preciousness of it being something that was a passion project personally for him.
And he was able to have a fresh mind towards it.
Yeah.
But he also
how do I want to
But he
tell
is
this
surrounded
story?
by people who are probably a little more immersed into these concepts.
For sure.
So it all just comes together nicely. RoboCop. We're going to give it 1 through 5 each combined for best out of 10. I'm a 4.5. I actually really think this is a pretty great movie.
I'm a 3.5.
Oh, whoa, a full point difference?
That is a good score.
Yeah. So check it out at an 8, easy A for RoboCop by Paul Verhoeven, 1987. It's in between the movies Querelle by Rainer Werner Fassbinder and Alfred Hitchcock's Rope.
Ooh.
So at least as good as those movies, if not better. I do love me some RoboCop. So check the show notes for links to other places to find us. Like and subscribe, leave a comment. Tell me what you think of RoboHop.
Oh, you RoboHot?
Go check out RoboHop. Anyway, RoboCop. We all know what this fucking movie is. Part of our Some Bullshit Tomorrow series. It's I feel like this movie fun and also a little too close for comfort. And it seems as relevant now as it ever was. So it works. It works. Just ignore the fact that they don't all have smartphones. They're not carrying around smartphones. Let's get out of here.
See you tomorrow.
Red alert. Red alert. Red alert.
You crossed my line of death!
You haven't dismantled your MX stockpile.
Pakistan is threatening my border!
That's it, Buster. No more military aid.
Nuke 'em. Get them before they get you. Another quality home game from Butler Brothers.